Story 1. Myrtle Beach, December 2005. Most folks picture sun-drenched beaches, golf carts, and families. Laughing. That's summer. But when the mercury drops, so does the facade. Winter in Myrtle Beach, especially for a motel on the wrong side of the tracks, wasn't about postcard sunsets. It was about survival, weeds/rates, down to next to nothing, hoping to lure in the snowbirds, retirees fleeing the northern freeze. What we actually got were the ghosts of the off-season. The forgotten, the desperate, the truly broken. Drug addicts, petty criminals, domestic disputes that screamed through thin walls. Meth labs in room 207, crack deals in the parking lot. You learn to keep your head down and your eyes open. And if you work the graveyard shift, like me, Daryl, you learn to pray. This particular night started like any other. The second shift guy clocked out, leaving me alone in the flickering fluorescent glow of the lobby. The only sound was the hum of the old ice machine and the distant roar of the ocean, a lonely, hungry sound. 10 minutes in, the familiar chime above the door sang its cheerful, out-of-place tune. Andrew walked in. Andrew was a good kid, maintenance for all 3 of our properties, and my lifeline on these dead nights. He'd grab us some grub, hang out for a bit, a small pocket of normalcy in a sea of decay. Back office, grab some cash, I muttered, already turning. My wallet was in there, tucked away. I heard the chime again as I stepped through the door, assumed it was Andrew letting a blast of cold air in, probably clowning around. The next thing I knew, a guttural gasp tore through the thin wall. I burst back into the lobby just as Andrew, his face contorted in a silent scream, crumpled to the floor. My eyes snapped up, and that's when I saw it. A glint of cold steel, a pipe arcing down. I felt it connect with my jaw, a sickening crunch, and the world tilted. Blood filled my mouth, metallic and hot. Then the pipe hit my head. Again and again. It wasn't just a hit. It was a rhythmic, calculated pounding. I dimly registered a voice, rough and distorted, yelling something about Andrew getting away. Getting away? What was happening? I was on my knees, then trying to stand, a primal instinct. To fight for a weapon that wasn't there. Each blow was a flash of white, then black. I remember thinking, this is it. This is how it ends. In a cheap motel lobby, under the indifferent gaze of a plastic potted plant. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it stopped. The figure, a blurred silhouette against the glass door, turned and bolted. Another shadow, one I hadn't even registered, followed him out into the inky blackness. I staggered, my head a drum, my vision swimming. My hand fumbled for the desk phone, my fingers slick with blood. 911, police, ambulance. The words came out slurred, thick with the coppery taste of my own terror. As I finished the call, the lobby door swung open again. It was Andrew, and behind him, a uniformed officer. Andrew looked pale, shaken, but otherwise unharmed. He explained, his voice trembling, that the second guy, the one who was supposed to handle him, had frozen. Just stood there, staring. Andrew, quick thinking, had sprinted out, flagged down a patrol car on the main road. Lucky. More than lucky. A miracle. The ER was a blur of bright lights and hushed voices. 13 staples in my head. Severe. Concussion. They said I was lucky to be alive. Lucky. The word felt hollow, echoing in the cavern of my skull. When I finally got out, still feeling like a ghost in my own skin, the manager showed me the security footage. I thought it was a punch, then one pipe hit. That's what my fractured memory had pieced together. But the video was a different story entirely. He hadn't just punched me. He hadn't just hit me once with the pipe. He'd alternated. Punch, pipe, over and over. 10 times. I watched myself, a marionette with broken strings, trying to stand, trying to grab for the weapon, trying to fight, even as my body betrayed me. I was on my feet, then on my knees, then back up, an instinctual, animal refusal to give in, even as I was being systematically dismantled. I hadn't remembered any of it. My mind, in its mercy or its cruelty, had simply erased the true horror of those moments. They never caught them, never identified them, just two shadows who appeared from the December night and vanished back into it, leaving behind a wreckage of blood and terror. I went back to work. Night shift. What else was I going to do? But the motel wasn't the same. I wasn't the same. Every shadow danced. Every car that pulled into the lot held a potential threat. Every chime of the door sent a jolt of ice through my veins. The silence was no longer peaceful. It was pregnant with unseen dangers, with the memory of steel on bone. I never saw those men again. But sometimes, when the wind howls just right through a cracked window or a car backfires in the distance, I feel the phantom thud against my skull. And I wonder about the second guy, the one who froze. Why? Was it fear? Or was there something else in his eyes that night? Something that made him hesitate? Something far more chilling than mere complicity? A glimpse of something truly monstrous that even he, a criminal, couldn't stomach? The unanswered questions, the unseen faces, the memory of that brutal, relentless assault, they still haunt the midnight shift at the end of the line. Story 2. I was a registered tow truck operator for a couple of years. Good money, plenty of overtime, the kind of job where you feel like you're doing something real. Watching shows like Highway Through. Hell, as a kid, I always wanted to be out there. When the opportunity came, I jumped. First month was solid. Learned a ton. Part of the gig was emergency calls with police and fire. Crash scenes, impounds, the whole 9 yards. You see things, man. DUI fatalities, hit and runs. Whole families gone in an instant. It can chew you up if you let it. But there's another side, too. Something most drivers won't talk about. The paranormal. The off calls. The stuff that just unsettles you. Every tow truck driver worth his salt has a story. This is mine. It was a cold, snowy November night in 2023. Slow day, so I was kicking back at the shop on my on-call shift. Then the dispatch crackled. Washington State Patrol, broken down unit on some dirt road. Didn't think much of it. I'd had similar calls before. Grabbed my keys, fired up the flatbed, and headed out. Directions took me a good 30 minutes east of the city, up into the I-90 corridor, towards the mountains. By the time I exited the freeway, the fog rolled in thick and heavy, swallowing everything. Had to take it slow. As I crept further up the winding dirt track, a thought nagged at me. This was an odd spot for a WSB cruiser. They usually stick to the interstates, state highways. But hey, maybe he was assisting a sheriff or some other routine thing. I shrugged it off. Finally, I reached the coordinates. I killed the engine and just sat there, staring into the impenetrable white. What the hell, I muttered. The WSB car was parked, all 4 doors wide open, no lights, no officer. Just a silent, empty shell in the fog. My gut screamed, turn around, get out. But pride, or maybe just plain stubbornness, kept me from bolting. I had to check it out. As a tow driver, I always carried. Grabbed my AR, sidearm holstered, and stepped out. Didn't know what the hell I was walking into. Cautiously, I approached the cruiser. Driver's seat, everything. Untouched, all the gear in place. Passenger side, same deal. Nothing missing, nothing moved. Then, I checked the trunk, where they usually stash the heavy firepower. The shotgun was there, but the only the AR was gone. That's when I noticed the silence. Absolute, crushing silence. No wind, no crickets, no distant hum of the highway. Just nothing. I'd seen plenty of messed up things in this job, but this unnerved me too. My core. Every instinct screamed danger. I called dispatch, just to confirm the location. Yep, that's the one, the dispatcher said, matter-of-factly. WSB needs a tow. That was it. I was ready to bail. Before I climbed back into my truck, I yelled out, Officer? Anyone? Here? Nothing. Just the dead, suffocating silence. Something isn't right, I whispered, and I booked it out of there. The drive back, a sick feeling festered in my gut. I felt like I'd stumbled onto something I absolutely shouldn't have seen. Why was he out there? Why leave the car like that? Why all the doors open? And the missing AR, when thousands of dollars of other gear was left untouched. Back at the shop, I called the police dispatcher directly. I knew her. Hoping for answers, I explained. She just reiterated the initial request. WSB car, broken down, needed a tow. No mention of a missing officer. Nothing. I never told my supervisor or anyone else. Who'd believe it? I wouldn't. And I never heard a whisper about a missing cop. Not on the news, not through the grapevine. Nothing. But to this day, the silence of that mountain road, the open doors, and that single missing AR, it still haunts me. A few months later, driving through that same stretch of I-90, I saw it. A new memorial marker on the side of the highway, just a simple cross with a name and a date. The date was November 2023. The name? Officer David Miller. I keep thinking about the empty car, the missing AR. Was he taken? Or was he the one who left? And why would they tell me it was just a broken down car? I never saw him, but I sure as hell felt him. Still do. Story 3. I was 18, fresh out of high school, and working the graveyard shift at a gas station. A real stepping stone, right? My old man, a blue-collar legend, always preached hard work, and I was trying to live up to it. But this isn't a story about hard work. It's about a kind of horror you can't clock out from. The usual cast of characters frequented the place. Truckers, drifters, the occasional college kid on a late-night munchie run. And then there were the regulars from the streets. Most were just trying to get by, grab a cheap coffee, warm up. But one, she was different. Her face was a roadmap of suffering. No nose, just a flattened hollow, like someone had photoshopped it out. And one eye, a piercing, almost unnervingly bright crystal blue, staring out from the wreckage. She'd come in, not like the others who just wanted to exist. She'd vanish into the restroom, the one I had to clean, and lock herself in. From 1 a.m. to 3 a.m., sometimes, I'd hear it, raw, guttural screaming, followed by waves of desperate, soul-shattering sobs. It wasn't human. It was the sound of something utterly broken, trapped. One particularly miserable night, she shuffled in, looking even worse than usual. I usually save the free coffee for cops or my dad, but something in her defeated posture hit me. "Hey," I said, pushing a steaming cup across the counter. "This one's on the house." Her good eye blinked. "Really?" The word was a fragile whisper, like she hadn't tasted kindness in a decade. Then she started grabbing donuts. 1, 2, 3. Didn't ask, just grabbed and bolted. I let it slide. Maybe, I thought, she finally caught a break. A tiny flicker of hope, even for her. That flicker died with the setting sun. The next night, she didn't come in. Not through the door, anyway. I was wiping down the counter, the fluorescent lights humming, when a shadow detached itself from the darkness outside. It was her, standing perfectly still, right at the circular window, staring directly at me. No blink, no movement, just that one bright blue eye, boring into me. I waved, a hesitant, nervous gesture. Nothing. It was like looking at a photograph. I felt a prickle of ice on my skin. "Can't have those damn curtains down, kid." Terry, my manager, grumbled, pushing past me. He yanked them open. She was gone. Poof. Vanished. My heart hammered against my ribs. Later, around 3 a.m., it was time for trash. The gas station had that kind of silence that amplifies every creak, every distant siren. I went from pump to pump, emptying the bins. As I got to the very last one, a primal scream ripped through the air. She was there. Not walking, not shuffling. Sprinting. Full out, wild-eyed, a creature possessed. Tearing across the asphalt straight at me. I'm not a small guy, a little stocky, but a cold dread seized me. I grabbed the overflowing trash cart, my makeshift shield, and bolted for the gated area by the compactor. I slammed the gate shut, the metal screeching a protest. She was on the other side, instantly. Her hands gripped the bars, fingers bony and white. Those pupils were blown wide, black voids, consuming the last sliver of blue in her good eye. She was breathing in ragged, desperate gasps, watching me with an intensity that felt like a physical blow. I could smell it then, too. A faint, sickeningly sweet stench, like something left out too long. I threw the bags into the compactor, my hands shaking so bad I almost dropped one. As I scrambled back inside, the door chime announced her entry. She looked normal, or as normal as she ever did. No wild sprint, no gate-gripping frenzy. Just a slow, deliberate walk to the donut rack. She took another handful, her gaze lingering on me, a silent accusation, before she walked out. I told Terry. He just nodded, said he'd handle it. Terry was good at handling things. I had the next day off, a brief reprieve. But Thursday, I was back on the graveyard. And as I stood behind the counter, the world went cold. She was there again, outside the window, staring. The same look of vacant, furious intensity from the compactor gate. It was like a film reel, rewinding. This time, she came in, walked past me, that unblinking gaze fixed, straight into the restroom. And then it started. The screaming, the crying, the sounds of things being thrown, smashed. Go make her leave. Terry barked from the back office, his voice clipped. My legs felt like lead, but I went. She was huddled in the corner, a dark, shapeless mass, still making those awful sounds. I told her, my voice barely a whisper, that she had to go. She looked up, and for the first time, I saw something in her good eye that wasn't just pain or madness. It was pure, unadulterated hatred. I backed away slowly, never turning my back, until she finally stumbled out. I didn't see her again that night. But when I did the trash, the stench was back. Stronger this time. Faintly metallic, sickeningly sweet, like something was rotting beneath the asphalt. Friday. Daytime shift, thank God. The sun was up. The world felt safer. Until the cops showed up. 2 cruisers, flashing lights. They found a body, the officer told me, behind the store, in the overgrown ditch. A homeless woman. Been there a while, they said. A week or 2, the detective said, grimacing. Pretty bad shape. My blood ran cold. Terry came over, pale as a ghost. They got her on camera, too, he muttered, shaking his head. Came in, stole donuts, like you said. But that was Tuesday. We both knew. We had both seen her. Terry, too, had been dismissive of my earlier encounters, but this was different. This was impossible. I quit that week. Took a job with my dad, glad for the honest grime and predictable hours. But sometimes, when I'm alone in the dark, that bright crystal blue eye flashes in my memory. And I can still smell that sickly sweet decay, because some things, once seen, can never be unseen. And the terrifying question remains. If she was dead for a week or 2, what was it that was running at me? Screaming in the bathroom and staring through the window? And what happens to the poor bastards working the graveyard shift at that gas station now? Story 4. The fluorescent hum of the I-Drive corridor was usually enough to lull most guests into a false sense of security at the Element by Marriott. For David, a man who'd seen enough of the world to know, true peace was a fleeting illusion. It was just background noise. He'd chosen this hotel for a quick family getaway with his wife, Sarah, and their 1-year-old daughter, Lily. A rare moment of calm. Before the storm, or so he thought. It was just past 11 p.m. Lily was finally asleep, a tiny, innocent bundle of warmth in her crib. Sarah was scrolling through her phone, half listening to a true crime podcast. David, ever vigilant, was winding down but still acutely aware of his surroundings. Their room, 517 was nestled down a short, private hallway behind a secondary keycard access door, a feature David had initially appreciated. A small layer of extra security. Then came the sound, a soft, almost imperceptible click, followed by the faint scrape of the secondary door opening. David's hand instinctively went to the nightstand drawer. He didn't say anything, just listened. His breath caught in his throat. The next sound was unmistakable, the distinct thud of a key card, engaging their room's lock, followed by the gentle turn of the handle. His heart hammered against his ribs. He'd engaged the deadbolt, of course, a habit ingrained from years of travel. The door nudged open a crack, catching on the bolt, then stopped. A shadow, tall and broad, was framed in the sliver of light from the hall. David moved, his movements silent, practiced. He pulled his 9mm from its holster, the cold steel A. Reassuring weight. "Can I help you?" he demanded, his voice low, a controlled rumble that still sent a shiver through Sarah. A beat of silence. Then, a muffled voice, almost a whisper, from beyond the door. "Maintenance." "No. Thank you," David replied, his eyes glued to the peephole. All he saw was the dark fabric of what looked like a hotel uniform and a flash of something darker. Gloves. Black gloves. No tools. No cart. Just the uniform and those gloves. And the chilling sense of an unseen gaze on their room. The shadow hesitated, then pulled back. Footsteps, surprisingly light, retreated down the hall. A moment later, the secondary door clicked shut. David waited, heart still thudding, gun still raised. Sarah was wide-eyed, clutching Lily's blanket. After a minute, an eternity in the suffocating silence, David slowly disengaged the deadbolt. He peered through the peephole again, then cautiously opened their door, then the secondary door. The hallway was empty, utterly, unnervingly empty. The quiet was almost louder than the intrusion. Sarah was already on the phone, her voice a hushed urgency, speaking to the front desk. "Someone just tried to get into our room," she explained, the words trembling. The voice on the other end, a young woman named Tiffany, sounded bewildered. "Ma'am, I'm so sorry. We sometimes check the key card batteries, but never this late. And never just one room." He said maintenance, Sarah insisted. "Our maintenance crew clocks out at 10. Tiffany responded, a hint of confusion in her tone. "They wouldn't be here." An hour later, the Orlando PD arrived. Officer Miller, a no-nonsense man with tired eyes, listened patiently. The hotel manager, a nervous woman named Brenda, stood beside him, wringing her hands. Brenda echoed Tiffany, then revised her statement. "Actually, officer, our maintenance team has to check the locks before they leave at 10. It's protocol." Miller raised an eyebrow. "So this guy was an hour late." Brenda stammered. "Well, sometimes they run behind." That's when Miller did something that surprised David. He gestured Brenda away, then stepped inside their room, closing the door behind him. "Look," he said, his voice dropping, "between you and me, something's off here. The front desk gave me 3 different times for when their crew clocks out, and only hitting your room. That's not a battery checked." He advised David to call corporate, to not let it go. "You're leaving tomorrow, right?" he asked, a subtle emphasis in his voice. When David confirmed, Miller nodded slowly. "Good. Good." He left. Then with a card, a grim look in his eyes that spoke volumes more than his words. The next morning, the unease lingered like a phantom chill. Sarah took Lily down for breakfast while David packed the last of their things. He knew his wife was beautiful, her long hair and bright smile. Turning heads. Could someone have seen her alone? Thought she was an easy target? He'd made sure to keep his things mostly out of sight, tucked away in the closet, giving the impression of a single mother's stay. But later that day, as they were checking out, David noticed something that twisted his stomach into knots. Behind the front desk, talking to Tiffany, was a man. He was wearing the same element uniform, and on his hands, he wore a pair of black, latex gloves. the same as the man at their door. David's breath hitched. He looked closer. The man's eyes met his, just for a second. A flicker of something unreadable, then a quick, almost imperceptible nod. A chilling acknowledgement. They drove away from the element, the Orlando sun blindingly bright, but David felt a cold shadow clinging to them. Was it just a botched maintenance check? Or was it something far more sinister? A night shift operation? A predatory network within the very walls designed for their safety? He still sees those black gloves in his nightmares. And every time they check into a new hotel, he checks the deadbolt twice. Because sometimes, the most terrifying monsters don't lurk in the dark, but walk right through your door, wearing a uniform.